So the symmetrical diminished scale is almost like a musical anomaly in that there's only 3 distinct symmetrical diminished scales and then they start repeating. Now within this scale we have a lot of really interesting and cool patterns that we can really use for a lot of different musical situations. Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Nick. If you're new here, I'm a Brooklyn-based musician and today we're going to be talking about the major and minor triads within the symmetrical diminished scale. So if you're unfamiliar with the symmetrical diminished scale, essentially it's a scale built on whole steps and half steps. Just a whole step, then a half step, then a whole step, then a half step, and you keep going until you get back to the root of the chord. This is also what's known as an octatonic scale, meaning there's 8 notes in the scale rather than the conventional 7 that we have in diatonic scales. Unlike the major scale, melodic minor, harmonic major, etc. Now because it is a pattern, we have a lot of repeating things. Now let's build a C symmetrical diminished scale. If we start on C, we have C, and then we have a whole step away, we go to D, and then a half step, we go to E flat, then a whole step F, half step G flat, then a whole step A flat, then a half step A, then a whole step B, and then half step C. Now normally when we're spelling scales we try to avoid the repetition of any notes, but in this case since it is an octatonic scale and we only have 7 distinct notes in the musical alphabet, not including sharps or flats, we're going to have to repeat one note, so in this case it was A. Now the interesting thing is that if you do the same thing and start on E flat, a whole step away would be F, and then half step G flat, whole step A flat, half step A, whole step B, half step C, whole step D, and then half step E flat. So E flat diminished is literally the exact same notes as C diminished. Another one that shares the same notes is G flat diminished and A diminished. Essentially if we're going minor thirds, all the diminished scales on the roots of those minor thirds are going to be the same scale. This also spells out a fully diminished chord. The same thing happens when you invert the chord. They're all the same chord. Typically for the diminished scale, if you're using it over the root, you can use it over diminished chords because we have a diminished chord within that. But if you use it over the 2nd, 4th, flat 6, or the major 7, you can use it over dominant 7th chords. So in the case of C diminished, we can use that over B dominant, D dominant, F dominant, or A flat dominant. This would generate something similar to the altered chord, but instead of having a flat 13, we'd have a natural 13, so something like this. If you're unfamiliar with altered chords, check out my video on the modes of melodic minor to learn more about that. But anyway, if we take a look within the diminished scale, we have a bunch of different triads in it of major and minor quality. We can build triads after the 2, 4, flat 6, and major 7th, and we can get major and minor triads. So in the case of major, in the C symmetrical diminished scale, we have D, and then we have G flat, but we can reinterpret it as an F sharp, A. So we have a D major triad. Then we also have F, A, and C. Then we have A flat, C, and E flat. We also have B, E flat, or we can reinterpret it as a D sharp to give us a major third, and F sharp. So we have these 4 chords, which is also major triads in minor thirds. So if we play that pattern, you're sort of getting a diminished sound because you're getting a lot of the notes within this diminished scale. We also have minor triads within that. We have D minor, D, F, and A. We have F, A flat, and C. Then we have A flat, B, and E flat. Technically, it would be a C flat in this case since it is a third, but we'll just call it B because it's easier. Then we have B, D, and F sharp or G flat. So we have those 4 minor chords as well. So within that, we have a lot of triads, and what that means is that we can actually use the diminished scale over these triads in a non-diminished situation to basically get us to a new key. With all that, we have 8 different chords of major and minor qualities, so we can use those diminished scales over that in context to get us to new keys. One thing we can do is that if we're in the key of C major and we wanted to get the E flat major, we can use the C symmetrical diminished scale. If you want to know more about why the half-step voice leading works, check out this video I made on half-step voice leading and why it works so well. So I'm going to start off in the key of C major. Pivot to D flat diminished, and now we're in the key of E flat major. So we can use the half steps and the triads within the diminished scale to pivot us there and make it a little more seamless rather than like sort of like a stark contrast. So those are some pretty cool tricks that you can use with a symmetrical diminished scale to spice up your playing with some chromaticism. If you want to know more about diminished chords and how they function, check out this video I made on how to get to every key using the diminished scale, and I talk about all the different types of diminished chord resolutions. So that's about all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm making new videos every Monday and Thursday, so come check it out if you're interested. Thanks for making it all the way to the end. I hope to see you next time. Take care.